The war on Christians running rampant into the Easter weekend. Egyptian Coptic Christians, in fact, canceling their Easter celebrations. This after that Palm Sunday bombing last week killed 44 people, wounded over 100. Just the latest of many vicious attacks against Christians. Joining me now to discuss, Danielle McCLaughlin, Kirsten Hagelin, and Gina Loudon. Gina, let me start with you. It's heartbreaking that they will not be able to celebrate Easter this weekend. And of course, we know the Coptics have been under a tremendous amount of pressure and attacks throughout their existence in Egypt.
Yeah, it is heartbreaking, Charles. I hope that, if there's any heart to take right at this moment for them to have some encouragement, I hope that they can take encouragement from the fact that we have veteran strategists now in the Pentagon, that we have somebody who's obviously demonstrated himself to be fearless in the White House. And of course, their God is still on the throne. So I hope that gives them some comfort over this weekend that is most holy.
Kristen, what do you think? More and more light is coming to this. I think a lot of people are shocked when they find out that Christianity is the religion that has been under a siege more than any other around the world. You would not know that if you just sort of casually listen to mainstream media. Do you think maybe now with more public attention, we'll find ways to help this situation?
Well, you're right. I mean, and finally, the mainstream media slowly, not as quickly as we would like, of course, is starting to pick up on this. Actually, the New Yorker just ran a huge article of Christianity, and they are leaving that part of the world in record numbers. And Egypt actually has one of the largest minorities, and they still only make up 10% of the population. So this is huge. And the fact that these two major world religions can't get along in, their birthplace really speaks to the tremendous damage that's being done to not only religious freedom, but tolerance in this world. And I agree with Gina. Our prayers are with the Egyptian Christians there right now. And they can also know that there are tons of ministry and Christian organizations on the ground that are working with these people. They're just not in the public eye so much because they're afraid of being persecuted. Right. So there is a lot of work, and a lot of those Christians are actually forgiving those people that are carrying out these terrorist attacks.
Well, that's part of Christianity. And we should put it in perspective, right? That Egypt has 91 million people. So you're talking about 9.1 million people. That's not a small amount of people to be under this sort of pressure and this sort of attack. Having said that, Danielle, how should that help shape policy here? There's been an outcry that we should be allowing more Christian refugees into this country because we think they'll assimilate. We don't think they pose a threat. And there's no doubt that they are the very definition of why there are refugee programs to begin with.
Certainly. One of the things we have to remember, one of the things that guides our immigration policy is the Constitution, and that requires that we don't discriminate on the basis of religion. So I know there's been a lot of discussion.
We wouldn't be discriminating, though. It's the fact that they are being targeted.
Absolutely.
Don't we help the people that are being targeted most?
No, and we absolutely should. And the Coptic Christians, what happened in Alexandria, not only this year, but in years prior, is devastating. And I looked at those pictures and I thought, there are the Stations of the Cross. There are those wooden pews. There are those things that I know of as a Christian living here. I think that we talk about this and we talk about where should refugees go. There are a lot of Christians who left Syria and Iraq and they went to Lebanon, which is why we're seeing fewer applications through the UN to the United States. So it's not that America is necessarily favoring Muslims over Christians, but we are seeing a disparity in the applications.
Well, Gina, I mean, you wouldn't apply if you didn't think you were going to make it through. This is a desperate situation. These guys don't have time to fill out a form of a wish list. They, do you think it's time for us to have greater wide open arms for these Christians who are being slaughtered around the world and acknowledge it by bringing them here to America?
I think we do have a lot of problems at home, and I think we do have to be careful constitutionally as well, Charles. And this is the thing about refugees, is that we are so capable of helping refugees abroad and helping them in their homelands. We heard this week a lot of talk about the fact that a lot of refugees don't necessarily want to come to America. And so I think balancing all those factors, while it's a little bit tricky, is something that we're going to have to look at doing as we continue to proceed forward and think about, balancing all the different factors that play into this, certainly.
Well, one thing we know that, Kirsten, is playing into it is the fact that this persecution, this slaughter, if you will, has intensified. It's not going to get any easier. So, I think the Christian world, the Western world, is going to have to figure out some ways to help these people. And I'm not sure any other way except to help get them out of those places.
You're absolutely right. And also a political situation. The Secretary of Defense, Jim Mattis, is actually going to Egypt next week. So we can exert also political pressure that this government needs to protect Christians, and they need to protect all religious liberty in that country. And that's where you're going to see these people safe.
Yeah.
But prayer and Christian pastors reaching out and speaking up is the most important thing they can do, especially this Easter weekend.
If Egypt wants to be a favorite son, they better step up to the plate. Ladies, have a great Easter yourselves. Thank you very much. All right, folks.